ground from which you were made. So this is what the Lord showed me. He said, you will work and toil until you return to the place where you were created. Give you a second. I'm going to say that again. You will toil to get what you need until you get back to the place, the terra firma, the ideal state of mind, the intellectual communication that you had with me, that you will toil in your mind and toil in your body and toil with everything that you need, toil with your job just to get what you desire, what you need as a necessity to live until you go back to the place that you were created. There's another clause. So in other words, God is saying that yes, you toil because you've not returned to the place where you were created. So in other words, by the time the new covenant came, it was not necessarily something new. It was a restoration of what had been broken.
Come on, come on. It
was a restoration from what had been taken. And so you're being born again to go back to Eden. That's where these communications, these songs, these words, these demonstrations, prophetic declarations come from, going back to Eden, because the restoration is not getting some new glory that was never been seen before, but it's restoring us back to the place that God desired us to be in the first place.
Come on.
People tried to get clothes and Gucci before and cover themselves with fig leaves. He said, I didn't say I wasn't going to give it to you, but I wanted to be the one to give it to you.
All right.
I didn't want you to cover yourself because you were deceived to believe that what you have is contaminated.
Come on. Come on. Come on.
So in other words, God said, I had gifts to give you. But the deception of your disobedience caused you to believe that not only was I not going to give it to you, but that what you needed or what you thought you needed had to cover what I created. So now you're not seeking after it because I said you could have it. You're seeking after it because you think you need it to cover what I created. That's the fig leaf syndrome that seeks after other things, that covers what God intended to be seen.
Oh, God.
That's why transparency is a thing of vulnerability. And vulnerability is a thing that people consider as naivety. And now you can't be transparent because you're considered vulnerable. And you can't be vulnerable unless you're considered naive. And nobody wants to be looked at as naive, especially women. And so now you're entering into a place, do I be transparent or do I cover myself with things that I believe will cover what other people see as naivety? Do I hide what God is telling me to reveal? Or do I run because the consequences from that, my same likeness, mankind, they may attack me for it because you're vulnerable. But the Lord shared with me about 2 days ago, he said, I protect the vulnerability of my people. Because you have to be vulnerable in order for God to begin to mold you. God can mold a hard thing. And you will sit in the church and hear the Lord speaking to you. And when people are hard, they run from the truth. And God cannot even touch them. They feel the wind of God's presence, but they don't feel his hand. I guarantee you. Because a potter cannot begin to mold anything that's hard because it won't want to be broken. And until you get broken and get pliable, God can't reform you into what you're supposed to be. So he's saying that you're going to work. And yes, you're going to be hard. Yes, you're going to toil. You're going to sweat for what you need. Ain't even going to make it to the desires of your heart in Proverbs until you return. You got to go back.
Ah, God.
Go back to the place. Go back to the landmark. Start over. And don't continue to allow the disobedience of what you see in the earth to be your consequence. That's what the restoration principle is about. God will take you back to a place where you no longer reap the consequences of what you're around.
Yeah.
Which means that even your spouse could be toiling. But you in your spirit and in your mind have returned. And you don't have to reap what they're reaping. Even if you connected in the soulish realm. That means that I don't have to be affected by your decisions.